Welcome to the first episode of the series Yoga, Tradition and History. In this series, we will journey together through 5,000 years of Yoga Vidya, the science of yoga. We will proceed chronologically from the Vedic beginnings through classical yoga of Patañjali to the modern forms we encounter today. We will examine primary texts, philosophical systems, and historical development. In this first lesson, we will pose a seemingly simple question: what actually is yoga? We will discover that the answer is not simple at all. The word yoga has had different meanings in different traditions over millennia. We will explore its etymology, look at the definitions in 6 major traditions, and reflect on what goals yoga pursues. Let's begin with the word itself. The word yoga comes from the Sanskrit root yuj. This root means to yoke, to harness, to unite, or to join. What's interesting is that this root has Indo-European connections. In Latin, we have jugum, yoke. In English, it's yoke. In German, joch. In Czech, we have jho or zapřáhnout. All these words share the same Proto-Indo-European root. Why is this etymology important? Because it reveals the original imagery. Imagine an ox or a horse that it's yoked to a cart. The animal is attached to the load and moves in the direction guided by the driver. In the yogic context, it's about yoking or unifying different aspects of our being. In different traditions, what exactly is being unified with what? It differs, but the classic basic idea remains. Yoga is a process of joining, unifying, harnessing. From the root itself, 4 basic meanings of the word yoga emerge. It's a technique, a specific method of practice, a path, a gradual process of transformation, a state, an achieved state of consciousness, goal, final enlightenment, or liberation. All these meanings are valid and are used differently in various texts. Sometimes all of them even appear in the same text. Now let's look at how different traditions defined yoga. There are 6 major traditions that understood yoga differently. We will go through them chronologically. Vedic yoga, a ritual connection. The oldest mentions of yoga are found in the Ṛgveda, which dates approximately from the period 1500 to 1200 BCE. In the 5th mandala, hymn 81, verse 1, it says, "Those who know the light rise up with good thoughts. When I yoke the swift horse to your chariot, I yoke many blessings of protection for you." Here, yoga is understood as a ritual act of connection, specifically the yoking of the gods' horses to the chariot. In the 10th mandala, we find another interesting passage. In hymn 136, which describes long-haired ascetics called Kēshins, it says, "The long-haired one holds fire, drinks poison, enters the wind. When the gods entered his body, he flies with the blast of wind." These cash-ins are considered predecessors of later yogis. Their practice included extreme asceticism, consumption of psychoactive substances, and entry into altered states of consciousness. In the Upanishadic period, a radical transformation occurs. Yoga becomes an internal practice focused on knowing absolute reality, Brahman. In the Keta Upanishad, in the 6th chapter, verse 11, we find one of the most famous definitions of yoga. When the 5 senses together with the mind remain at rest, and the intellect ceases to act, that they call the highest goal. This they consider yoga, the firm holding of the senses. Then one must be watchful, for yoga comes and goes. Notice that yoga is defined here as a state where the 5 senses, mind and intellect, are at rest. This state is described as the highest goal. The last sentence is very interesting. Yoga comes and goes. This means it's not a permanent state that you achieve once and have forever. It's a state that requires constant attention and care. The Bhagavad-gītā, part of the epic Mahabharata, brings a revolution in understanding yoga. Yoga here is not just for ascetics and hermits. It's a path for everyone living in the ordinary world. In the 2nd chapter, verse 48, Krishna says, "Perform action, O Arjuna, being steadfast in yoga, abandoning attachment, and balanced in success and failure." This evenness is called yoga. Here, yoga is defined as samatva, evenness, balance of mind. A bit further in verse 50, Krishna says, yoga is skill in action. This is probably the most famous definition of yoga in all of Indian literature. Kaushalam means skill, dexterity, expertise. Yoga is not escape from action. It's the art of acting correctly with full presence without attachment to results. The Bhagavad-gītā presents 3 main paths of yoga: karma yoga, yoga of action; jnana yoga, yoga of knowledge and wisdom; bhakti yoga, yoga of devotion. The Yoga Sutra of Patañjali is probably the most systematic text on yoga ever written. It's a collection of 195 aphorisms arranged in 4 chapters. The first chapter contains the famous definition already in the 2nd aphorism. Yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Let's break down each word. Yoga, yoga, chitta, mind, in the sense of the entire mental apparatus; vritti, fluctuations, waves or modifications; and nirodha, cessation, stilling, control. When these fluctuations are stopped, something very important happens. The 3rd aphorism says, "Then the seer abides in its own nature." When the mind is not filled with whirling, the self, drashtra, the seer, can rest in itself. This is kaivalya, absolute freedom. Patañjali in the 2nd chapter describes Ashtanga yoga, the 8-limbed yoga. Yama, ethical restraints; niyama, personal disciplines; asana, stable and comfortable seat, pranayama, control of breath, pratyahara, withdrawal of senses, dharana, concentration, dhyana, meditation, and samadhi, union. With the advent of Tantra, another revolution occurs. While classical yoga of Patañjali tended to view the body as an obstacle, Tantric yoga sees the body as an instrument of liberation. Hatha yoga arises sometimes in the 10th to 11th century as part of the Tantric movement. The word Hatha is composed of two syllables. Ha, that means sun, tha means moon. So it's the yoga of sun and moon. It's about unifying polarities in our body. Hatha yoga primarily includes asana, physical postures. No longer it's just the seat, but a complex system of physical postures. Pranayama, breath technique. Mudra, energetic seals. Bandha, energetic locks. Shatkarman, and purification practices. The goal of Hatha yoga is the awakening of Kundalini, the dormant energy at the base of the spine, and its guidance upward through the chakras to the Sahasrara chakra at the crown of the head. The last phase in the evolution of yoga is its encounter with the modern world. This begins in the 19th century with figures like Swami Vivekananda, who brought yoga to the West. In the 20th century, that we call modern postural yoga emerges, primarily thanks to teachers like Krishnamacharya and his students Iyengar, Patabi Joyce, Desinkachar, and many more. Modern yoga places great emphasis on asana as a complex system of physical practice, on therapeutic aspects, adaptation to individual needs, and integration with modern medicine and sciences. But what are the main goals of yoga? When we've gone through various definitions of yoga in traditions, we can now ask, what does yoga actually aim for? What is its goal? Across all traditions, we can identify three main goals. Moksha or kaivalya, that's liberation. The highest goal in most systems is liberation from the cycle of birth and death, samsara. In the Samkhya yoga system, this is called kaivalya, aloneness, a state where Purusha, consciousness, rests in itself, liberated from prakriti, from nature. In Vedanta, it's called moksha, recognition of the identity of Atman, which is individual self, with Brahman, absolute reality. Liberation doesn't mean abandoning the world, it means living in the world, but not being enslaved by it. The second goal is samadhi. That's a state of unified consciousness where there is no difference between the observer, observing, and observed. Patañjali in the Yoga Sutra distinguishes several levels of samadhi, from samadhi with an object to samadhi without an object, where all mental contents have ceased. And third is siddhi, perfect abilities. It's mentioned mainly in the tantric context. These are supernatural abilities or perfections. Patanjali in the third chapter of the Yoga Sutra devotes a large part to describing various siddhis that can arise from the practice of samyama, knowledge of past lives, knowledge of others' minds, invisibility, levitation, and many others. But Patañjali also warns, these perfections are obstacles to samadhi, but they are achievements in the worldly sense. Siddhis are not goals in themselves, they are byproduct of practice, and attachment to them is an obstacle on the path to liberation. So, what have we learned in this first lesson? We discovered that yoga is not one thing but many things. It is etymologically yoking, unification, control, historically development through 6 major phases, definitionally many different descriptions, and goal-wise 3 main orientation. What's important to take from this lesson? First, when someone says yoga, we must ask which yoga, because under the same name many different things are hidden. Second, yoga is not just physical exercise. Asana is just one of many branches of the yogic tree. And historically, it wasn't even the most important. And third, yoga is not something foreign or exotic. It's a systematic approach to transformation consciousness. Something anyone can use in any culture. And fourth, yoga has a clear goal: liberation, awakening, a realization of true nature. It's not just a relaxation technique or form of fitness. In the next lesson, we will look at specific aspects of this rich tradition, how India looked at the time of yoga's emergence, what were the shamanic roots of yoga, what the Vedas said about consciousness and cosmology, and much more. Thank you for your attention in this first lesson. See you in the next, where we will explore the panorama of ancient India, the geography, cultural, languages, and spiritual landscape from which yoga arose.